And once again, welcome to the Wealthy Teacher Show. And I'm your host, Dr. Victoria Boyd. I have such great pleasure when I share and help other people understand, get knowledge, but generally just meeting phenomenal people that are out in the community. And that's one of the reasons that I created the Wealthy Teacher Show, because there's so many wealthy teachers out in the community. And this is a platform where they get to share their information, because sometimes they just sort of hold on to it and don't share it with enough people. This is a way for you to let other people understand what you're doing. And some people are sort of shy and they don't feel that they have information that's valuable. We all have information that's valuable. And so you need to acknowledge that and claim your wealth. You are a wealthy teacher. And I want to have you on that show. And I'm saying all that is because this is produced by the Philanthropreneur Foundation. And the Philanthropreneur Foundation is a nonprofit, a 501c3. And we're dedicated to providing education, awareness, and resources. And those resources are what's needed in the community. And how we share them is through this show. We're providing education, awareness, and access to resources. Now, because we are a nonprofit, we too need community support. So therefore, we created a special program called Be the Expert. You know, I mentioned earlier, there's all these wealthy teachers out in the community. So come on the show and be the expert. And what you'll do is not only have what and who you are promoted, you'll be helping a nonprofit. That's a win-win situation. So for a very small donation, you come on the show, I interview you and acknowledge you as the expert in your field. And you're sharing the information that others need to know. So I'm so excited to invite you to become a member of our family. Just reach out to me, drvictoriaboyd@gmail.com, or TWT Show, that's the Wealthy Teacher Show, at drvictoriaboyd.com. You can reach me through all of those methods. But do it today. Guess what? Our schedule is filling up fast. We are already booked for July, but you want to get in here so that you can get on the schedule. And I'm excited that so many people are taking advantage of that. So, okay, let's talk about what's happening today on the show. If anyone has ever launched a business, good luck. No, I wish you luck, but that's not an easy task. And especially if it's a brick and mortar business, there are so many details that you have to think about in advance. Your business plan, the market feasibility study, the competition. Then not only talking about what equipment do you need, what staff do you need, how much do you need to launch it, okay? So all of these things, you as the investor or the business owner, the entrepreneur, you have to make sure you have those key elements in place. So I'm excited to have on the show today a consulting firm that actually takes care of all of that for you. Yep, they're called the M.T. Nesser consultant firm, and it's a father-son duo that I met a month or so ago that really impressed me of how they synchronized their two expertise into one great company. So it's going to be an exciting show as we talk to them about their expertise, what brought them here, and how they sort of align with what I'm interested in. So we'll have them on in our Voices from the Field segment. But before we go, obviously, I want to thank our sponsors, Agent with Heart, for real estate agents that want to give back, Softfront CRM, Customer Relations Management, and Rock's Place, HempWorks, changing lives one drop at a time. We'll be right back with Voices from the Field. welcome back to the Wealthy Teacher Show. And now we're going into our Voices from the Field segment. You know, I really have a great time when I bring all of these wonderful guests on that have so much information. And today, again, we have two great guests. I want to introduce to you a couple of gentlemen that I met, it's been about a month ago. Because, you know, I'm always doing research, looking at who's out there in the industry. And yes, we're going to be talking about the CBD/cannabis hemp industry again today. Because in Nevada, across the country, it is the hot industry to get into. And fortunately today, who I have on the show is really going to talk about the back end of the industry, how to set up those businesses. And so for those of you out there that are interested, that are exploring, thinking about what does it take to start a business, I think we'll have some answers for you today. So let me introduce, today I have Mike Nesser and Tony Nesser, and that's a father-son team, right?
Correct.
Yep.
I'm so excited. You know, and I met you about a month ago, and both of you bring such a unique energy and different components to what you're doing together that you really just fill out and make a full solid component. So before we get going, I'm going to start with Tony.
Okay.
You know, father first. Tell us, are you from Las Vegas? Where are you from? What's your background? What you do before you did this, you know?
Okay. Well, no, I'm not from Vegas. I've been here for about a year.
Ooh, newbie,
So I'm
newbie.
a newbie. That's right. This is actually my second summer. So I'm kind of getting used to the heat.
Yeah, we're in that heat alert today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so good to be inside.
Absolutely.
And my background basically is businesses. I've been setting up businesses and working with businesses since I was about 16.
Wow.
My family had
A couple years ago.
Yeah, just a few years ago.
Okay.
Just a few years back. 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
My family had a CPA business
Okay.
in Baltimore, and that's where I'm originally from.
From the East Coast?
From the East Coast. And so part of their job was to help businesses grow and expand. And when I got involved in the business, my aspect was to really help businesses get started.
Okay, so the startups, you have that expertise of what to do first and things like that.
Right, and how to get a business started, and more importantly, things not to do. You know,
Like,
the things
yeah.
the pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Many people, when they call me about the nonprofit sector, say, you know, could you just, you know, what should I not be looking at? And I'm like, that's the hard thing to
Right.
define. But there are some tips that you can give, and we'll ask for those later. Okay, Mike, take on, you know, you got the spotlight. Where are you from?
So I'm from Florida, also East Coast.
Okay.
You know, he decided to go down there and start a family up, I guess.
Okay.
So I always never was really a big fan of the humidity, so I moved from Florida out to California.
Okay.
Got involved in, you know, my first real grow out there.
Okay.
And then after California, I kind of just gravitated towards Vegas.
Okay.
Had some friends who were moving out here, and we all got a place
Yeah,
together.
Vegas has this magnet that sort of pulls everything in. Okay, you mentioned the term your first grow. Some people listening in our audience, those watching, might not know what that term means. What do you mean by your first grow?
Okay, so when I moved out to California, I had a friend who was growing cannabis. He was
Okay.
actually growing some sativas in his garage because he had a collective, and he was allowed to grow up to 100 of those plants.
Okay, and so when you say involved in grow, that means you're growing plants
Yeah.
for distribution or a product?
For dispensaries, or for
Dispensaries.
the collective dispensary in California.
Okay, because California has and was legalizing cannabis a couple years before Nevada even went there. So,
Oh, yeah,
Many years, yeah.
Yeah.
yes, their sophistication in the whole industry is probably, I won't say light years ahead of us, because we've learned from all of these other states that do this, but you were involved before Nevada even was able to do it.
Before Nevada was recreational, I was growing marijuana out in California.
Okay, so you bring wealth from that side of the industry. So how does the two of you decide to create MT Nesser?
Well, I came out here and I got involved in a cannabis general contractor for temporary work.
Okay.
And you know, I brought him out here because they were just starting and they needed help, you know, bringing in new customers and
Yes.
setting up, you know, the smaller side of the business. So
Okay, so he brings the business acumen, you bring
Correct.
the product acumen, and it's just working together.
I like to call Mike my mad scientist. He's always tinkering and experimenting with, you know, new blends, new extracts, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. It's,
And-
we
and-
need a mad scientist.
You need, yeah, and you also, and part of the problem with, you know, with newbies to the industry, if you're just getting started, is that a lot of people say, well, you know, I've been around marijuana all my life,
Yeah.
and, you know, I like to get high, or I like to enjoy it recreationally. That doesn't lead to a good business start.
No, and actually that's not what the businesses have to put together. I mean, just because you might have been a smoker for 50 years doesn't mean you know marijuana.
And even if
It's
you've
for
even
cannabis.
if you've grown,
Yeah.
you know, even if you say, well, I did 50 plants or 100 plants, that's a huge step from 50 plants to 3,000 plants.
Or just running it as a business. So, MT Nesser is a consulting firm that helps, your expertise helps businesses put their plan together.
That's correct.
You help them think about what product they might be doing or producing, or what method they might go through.
yeah, the products, the method, really, you know, kind of general, like how to get the best yields out of your I guess your equipment and what you have.
Okay, so to clarify for our audience, there's several components in the industry. There's growers, and that's where you mentioned you were with a grow.
Right.
There's the manufacturing component, the processing, or
Yes.
we call it processing.
Extractions,
Extractions, in another word.
another term for
And
it.
then there's the dispensaries, that's where it's going to the consumer. And do you help with all three of those, or what is area does?
Yeah, we help with all three, because in the end it's a coordinated effort.
Okay.
So, you know, your best bet, if you can, is to start with the dispensary and almost work backwards.
Really?
So, you know, if you can get in on the dispensary side, you've gotten in on the retail side.
Okay.
And that will help you control the market a little bit better.
Okay, so and this is clarification for me, and I'm sure the audience might be asked. So even if you start a grow farm, or you know where you're growing, isn't that a product? Aren't you going to sell it? Aren't you selling it?
Well, you're going to sell it through the dispensaries. You're going to be selling it either to production facilities or to a dispensary.
Or preferably your own production facility, so that way you can get the most out of it.
Okay, so even if you're growing, your end result isn't necessarily just growing and then selling your crops and to somebody else to deal with. You want to see it from seed to sale.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
And you know, when you're growing, you can get the buds, which everyone, you know,
Yeah.
goes crazy over, and oh, look at the neat bud, and it has all the trichomes, and it has a nice THC content. But what did you do with the trim? You
Right.
know?
Okay.
You're
So
not
you-
going to sell the trim in the dispensary.
Yeah, so you have to look at the holistic
Right.
seed to sale, and what happens to all of the different components, the stalk, the stem, the leaves, the, you know.
Right. And when we talk about trim, we're talking about, you know, the bud itself comes in a flower, basically.
Right,
And
yeah.
so the trim is what's left over after
Yeah,
you cut the
because
bud
there's
out.
many pictures where, you know, that you have the tiny little scissors and they're sitting there, you know, trimming them off and to get down to the
Right.
tight, you know, resins and things that are within the bud.
The nugget.
The
Yep.
nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are talking the cannabis world here. This is the marijuana side where we have the THC levels that are controlled. This is under the umbrella of legalization of the different dispensaries and things, especially in Nevada and the other states that have legalized medical marijuana. But then we have a whole other side of this industry that evolves out of cannabis and sativa, but that's the hemp side. So do you do anything on that side?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And the two are distinctly different.
Absolutely.
Because for the most part, if you're looking at the marijuana side,
Yes.
you're looking state by state by state. So anything manufactured or grown here in Nevada has to be sold here in Nevada.
Okay.
There's no, you know, it
Cross-state.
can't cross borders.
Right.
But on the other hand, the hemp products can be sold across state borders. So
Absolutely.
it's two really different business models.
Yeah, and many people don't understand that when you start talking about the cannabis. They lump everything together. Oh, you know.
Right.
And that's probably why I do a lot of the educational courses that I do. You know, image will jump up on the show of the courses that I do second and fourth Saturday of each month on hemp education, because so many people are confused and try to lump them together, but there's hemp-derived CBD, and then there's cannabis, marijuana, the dispensaries, recreational marijuana. That whole industry, as you said, is regulated through different states and on the federal level, whereas the hemp-derived is, you can buy it in all 50 states, online, and anywhere.
Yeah.
The value of them now, okay, so what would you say the medical difference between the two are?
Well, I think that you know, again, there are certain ailments and certain medical conditions that the THC element of the plant is going to be better at addressing.
Right.
But for the most part, the CBD, whether it comes from the marijuana side or the hemp side, is going to have most of the same healing properties.
Yeah, and that's what I've been trying to explain, that those that are real proponents of the THC part of it, well, it just doesn't work unless you have THC. Well, that's not true. There's certain conditions
Sure.
that it does impact much stronger. You know, depression, anxiety, the PTSDs and things like that.
Yeah.
Those
Right.
receptors need the THC to impact what they're doing. But the CBD that comes from all the other cannabinoids that impact your endocannabinoid system really have huge health benefits across the board.
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, and you know, the main difference between the CBD and the THC, because a lot of the conditions that they'll treat kind of overlap.
Yep.
So the main difference is that the CBD isn't psychoactive.
Right.
You know, so you can take this and you know you can operate your vehicle.
Yeah. Or do a show like today.
Yeah.
Well, there are
Who,
many.
who here is on CBD today? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like a vitamin pill that I take every morning for maintenance, for my health maintenance, for my knee that screams at me sometimes. I'm here today. I don't have any knee pain. So I believe in CBD. Both of them have their benefits. Now let's talk a little bit more about the processing, because in your business you guide, recommend, and help people understand what are some of the best processes. And we've talked before about the CO2 process. Could you explain what is the CO2 process?
So basically, what it is you take you know, your cannabis and you run it through a CO2 extraction machine. And basically, the CO2 and the pressure, you know, push the cannabis oil out of the plant.
Right.
So that way you can have a, you know, just the essential oils from the
Pure.
plant, the pure cannabinoids.
Right.
You know, you can run it again for your terpenes.
Yeah.
and
So
add the
that's when they
flavor.
break it down for isolates and things like that.
Right.
But basically what you're saying, the CO2, it's in a vacuum pressured tanks. There's 3 tanks.
Right.
That the pressure just sort of extracts it out. And many people, CO2 is the bubbly stuff in your seltzer water. In case people are wondering what CO2, that's what
Right.
makes the bubbles, you know. And
You breathe it out, you
you
know.
breathe it out, and if you're drinking any kind of seltzer water, or you know the different bubbly waters, sparkling waters out there, you're drinking CO2. So it's not harmful to the body, and
And it doesn't leave any traces
no
behind.
trace.
You know,
It's pure.
it's much lighter than the cannabinoids. So the cannabinoids go down and the CO2 goes up.
Yep.
And it goes right back into the same starting chamber.
And so in the research I've done, that is considered the best way to process it, and most people recommend that way. But the pros and cons of that are it's more expensive because it's more technical. Is that right?
It's a little bit more expensive to start, but lately, you know, it's actually been kind of matching at what,
Okay.
you know, some of the other extraction methods you can do.
So maybe we'll see more of it being processed via the CO2 process. Because at first it was so expensive that only the high-end companies could afford to do it that way. And plus, in order to run those extraction machines, you had to have some technical acumen. You had to have a skill set and be an expert in running those machines.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of training that goes into these machines. There's a lot of little nuances
Yeah.
for each machine, and
Yeah.
you know, really, you have to take this machine and refine your process,
Yeah.
and you have to know what you're working with and
Yes.
how to get all the best yields out of it.
Yeah, and so some other companies or people might have heard of tinctures and things like that, or the solvent extraction. That's where they're actually putting it in alcohol-based products and letting it soak. Ugh.
Well, you know, alcohol, like especially if you're using an ethanol,
Uh-huh.
actually isn't bad. You know, you can take the CO2 and take it one step further, and put it through you know, a winterization process where you actually let it soak in ethanol for a little bit, and then you take it and you put it into what's called a rotovape, and basically it superheats, or it doesn't superheat, but it gets, you know, warm enough to make the ethanol evaporate, and you know that you've gotten all of your ethanol out because you know, get what you started with.
Okay. So, I mean, well, me just looking at the research, most scientists or the companies out there say that the CO2 is what is considered the best way, and then the solvents and the ethanol would be number two. And,
Right.
And then there's the other.
Well, you know, you can go CO2 and then distill it further with the ethanol.
Okay.
And you know, that's a lot of times what these companies are doing. And you know, that there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly safe,
Okay.
and you don't have any traces of the solvents in there.
And that's when they put the term tincture on it?
No, that's when they have the term distillate.
Distillate, okay, okay. So now we've explained what you do as a company, what some of the nuances are. As you're working with different people that are just exploring, what would you consider some of the key things that they should be aware of, or that they want to be careful about?
Well, a lot of that's going to depend upon the state that they're trying to operate in. I mean, and again, we're looking at the difference between hemp and marijuana.
Okay.
Hemp pretty much is you know, free for all right now. So you don't, the state's not going to get involved in that. You know, it looks like the federal, on a federal level, it may become a little bit, you know, they may take it off the controlled substance. And if they do that, then it's going to be, you know, pretty much you can set up your own extraction facility
Okay.
Anywhere that you want to.
Yes.
And so there's going to be a lot, you know, it's going to be a lot less restrictive. So if you get on the marijuana side, what we see, you know, part of it is the licensing.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very familiar with the state you're in, what the licensing requirements are, what the municipalities are looking at. There's a lot of times the municipalities are going to block any type of
And
facility.
you help with all of that.
We do the research up front.
Okay.
So before you know, really before you commit to doing anything and really spending the bulk of the money, what we do is we go out and we do a survey of your area. You know, what are the environmental costs? What are the environmental impacts? What are the, there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, in the business plan, that's your feasibility study, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's most people that, you know, I've talked to on any level when they're launching something. I always go back up and say, well, have you done your feasibility study? You know, there's the market feasibility. It's just, you know, the competition out there. That's the first steps in the business plan.
Well, one of the oldest adages in the game is that people don't plan to fail; they fail to plan.
Yeah.
And so, you know, opening up a dispensary or opening up an ice cream parlor is really the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, unless, if you don't know your marketplace, if you don't understand the, you know, the requirements of what you're going into, the chances are it's not going to be a successful endeavor.
Absolutely. Cannabis ice cream.
It's coming.
Yep.
Oh,
It's here.
It's, you know, it's a hot day today, so when you mention ice cream, naturally my mind went to the ice cream. You know, that's just the way I roll. You know?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, you know, you know, what we see is, you know, and not to get off topic, but what we're seeing is that we believe that the recreational use of THC is going to level out at some point.
Yes.
But what's going to explode is the medical side of the CBD.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
That's what I see.
As we get older, we're all experiencing the same problems.
Older?
You've got,
Older?
We're not getting any younger.
Well, maybe you're not.
No, I became a believer because of the medical benefits it did for me. I mean, literally, I was taking a lot of ibuprofen, aspirin, and things just for pain in my knee and my back. Since
Yeah.
last August, I haven't taken any. I've been on CBD, and And it made me a believer. That,
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
You know, it's a medicine that's non-habit forming.
Yeah.
So you can take it for whatever ails you, and then when you know you're done with that, you can just get off of it and not have to worry about withdrawals or
Well,
any negative
basically,
side effects.
I'm taking it for maintenance. I take it. I don't need to get off of it. You know, CBD
Yeah.
is a lifestyle now that I take it in the morning because it has brought down my cholesterol. It's managing blood pressure for my husband. My knee does not swell anymore. Has brought me back to a homeostasis balance within my body, and I'm going to keep it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
I mean, I even take CBD sometimes. Like I injured my shoulder a while back, and you know, whenever it's kind of stiff or I have
Flare up,
some
yeah.
inflammation, I just
Yep.
pop a little bit of CBD underneath my tongue and
Yep.
hold it there. It's strawberry flavored and delicious.
Well, you meant, so you keep bringing sublingual. That's what you were doing when you put it
Yes.
on your tongue. Because I give instruction, there's special membranes there. Because people say, well, can I put it in juice? Well,
You
you
can.
can, but you don't get the best value or the potency.
Right.
Put it on your tongue, let it absorb into those membranes, and it goes right into your system. So if people really want your support, your help in them walking them through the process, how can they reach you? Should they reach out to you before they even start the exploration? Or
Yeah, a lot of the people that we're working with now are really investors.
okay,
So we've got a lot of investors coming to us that say, you know, hey, we see that there's a lot of profitability in this industry. How do we get involved? And then we take them right from the start. And most of the people that we work with on the investor level are not going to go and grow it or
Yeah.
extract it or sell it. All they want to do is put the money up and
Yeah.
have. And so what we do is we take them all the way from licensing, you know, from finding a place, finding an area that's going to be, you know, fairly, you know, easy to get a license, all the way through managing the, you know, the grow facility, the
Okay.
extraction facility, and the dispensary.
okay. So you're a one-stop shop.
Pretty
Yep.
much.
A turnkey solution.
Absolutely. And also, I'm excited. We're working on a book together, aren't we?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to bring out a book. We don't have a title or anything, but it's on CBD, the medical benefits, and we'll be adding some history. It will be pretty much an all-inclusive book on understanding the world of CBD. And, you know, I'm looking forward to assisting with that, and I can't wait. So September, is that our release date?
September is the target date right now.
Okay, so you heard it.
I'm writing like crazy. So.
September is the target date. That's going to watch for our release date. See, now I got you over a barrel. And
That's all.
It's on film.
Uh-oh.
You can't escape now.
That's right.
Okay,
It's
so
written.
how can people reach either one of you? Both of you. Go, start, Tony. Tell us how we can reach you.
mtnesser.com.
mtnesser.com. And
Yeah.
same for you?
Yep, same for me.
Okay,
You know,
and-
you can also look up MT Nesser on pretty much any social media platform.
Okay.
Find us there.
And we're on
He's the
LinkedIn.
social media guy.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Any other nuggets that you want to share with our viewers?
Well,
Do you have something?
yeah, I mean, we talked about the pitfalls, the do's and
Yeah,
don'ts.
yeah.
You know, even though I made the reference that opening up an ice cream parlor, opening a dispensary. Well, that's really very simplistic.
Yes, it is.
And what we see a lot of mistakes that people make is they go into it thinking, oh, this is just another business.
Yes.
So they don't do the little things that you wouldn't think about. You know, like we call them man traps. Places, if you ever visit a dispensary, you have to go through one set of doors, and then you're trapped in there
Okay.
until they let you into the actual
Right,
dispensary.
yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand that. They don't realize the need for that. So
Okay.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
little
'cause
nuances.
I went to one in Denver before Nevada had, and you had to go through I call it the maze.
Yeah.
Where where checkpoints, you know.
And it's done that way for a purpose.
Okay.
You know, that's just not willy-nilly, hey, we designed it that way. So what
Okay.
we see a lot of times is people, when they do these things, they don't set them up properly.
Okay.
And so the beginning stages are critical. And so
Absolutely.
what we do is we actually will design the facility.
Oh, okay.
So, we sit down with you and we say, here's where your equipment's going to go, here's where your changing rooms are, here's this, here's that. And that becomes, and part of that state law, You know,
Yeah.
just the little things like every transaction has to be recorded.
Uh-huh.
So there has to be a camera watching where you are doing things.
Okay.
So, you know, again, people don't think about that because it's kind of not a normal business.
Yeah, you have that. You have created a unique business in a box for the cannabis industry.
The state has.
Yeah, okay.
Let's
Yeah,
put it that
the state
way.
has done that. And,
But you know what they want.
But we know
Oh,
what they
yeah.
want.
Yeah, so that is what power and knowledge that you bring.
Yeah, and again,
to,
that varies from state to state to state. Right
Yeah.
now, we're in several different states, and each state has its own little set of rules. And you were correct about California. Most states have modeled their assumptions based on California,
Yeah, I
and then
heard
they've
that.
said, okay, well, there's some issues in California,
Yeah.
and you know, like for instance, pesticides. Right now, that's a big issue in
Yeah.
California. Most of the growers are not passing their, you know, their environmental tests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, you know, other states have really taken that to heart and have, you know, added that into their rules and regulations.
Absolutely. So once again, if anyone wants to catch up with Mike and Tony, great duo. Just go to mtnesser, NESER.com, and you can get your questions answered. If you're an investor looking to launch and enter into the cannabis/CBD industry, these are the go-to guys.
yep.
And you can reach us at Tony@mtnesser.com or Mike
Mike.
at MTA.
Real simple.
Very
Those
simple.
are email. Okay, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope that this has been valuable to you, but I know our viewers have learned a lot, and I hope a lot of folks reach out to you. And thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll be right back. Welcome to Board Bound Leadership, the building blocks for nonprofit success. This is where you will empower yourself and the board to be assets every organization deserves. You can unlock the knowledge you need for board service with tools such as Board Bound Leadership Book, nominated for the 2017 Terry McAdam Book Award from Alliance for Nonprofit Management. Visit the Board Bound Leadership Learning Library, where you'll find board certification, training, and board bites, all designed to help you meet the challenges that may arise every day and erase the fears that we so often see. Board Bound Leadership makes board membership a rewarding experience. So start today at boardboundleaders.com. Five top benefits of HempWorks CBD. Number 5, reduces stress and anxiety. Number 4, supports heart health. Number 3, protects immune system. Number 2, anti-inflammation. And number 1, pain relief. 10 reasons you need HempWorks as your source for CBD. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It works. I want to thank our guests today, Mike and Tony Nesser, for being on the show and sharing all of that wonderful information. And as usual, thank you to our sponsors, Agent with Heart, Softfront CRM, and Rock's Place, HempWorks, changing lives one drop at a time. Make sure you join us for our next show as we bring some fascinating guests on the show. Check us out on Facebook, sign up and subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.